It's kind of like a, what do you call it? Like maybe like an emo thing or so. I don't even know. It's like the cool thing, I guess. I don't know. I saw a bunch of people
Let me
doing
see.
it.
It's a little like the father from Back to the Future, McFly. What's his
Crispin
name?
Glover.
Yeah. What's the character's name?
What is his name? It's George McFly.
Yeah, you got a George McFly do.
A little bit. Oh, that's the time to come on the show. Shit.
Who, George?
No, me. That's on my alarm to come on and join your show here. This will be fun.
We got, you know what? This is all last second. I figured we just go live and we co-brand. This is for everybody watching. This is members only right now. You can talk to us. Unedited, uncut. I think I'm streaming live right now.
Oh, yeah. Can I do this? So stream to your audience. If I push that, does that go to mine?
Yeah,
I can do that. Okay, cool.
Let me tell everybody really quick. This is Coffee Talk. I am Adika, and that is my friend Chuck Shute. He's really cool. He has a great podcast, and I figured, you know what? Share the wealth, share it all. Even though I don't have many people follow me, but Debbie Moeller, this one's for you. You'll like this one. You got two of the best.
Both of us.
That's right. She likes both of us. But we got a guest coming on here today, and it's pretty cool. I met this guest from the PR person that you turned me on to, from Eric Roberts. It's such a crazy story. NBC in the 70s. And I hope she shows up. The gossip, the sex, the real Hollywood stories. And I figured, Chuck, I called you. I go, do the show with me. So, you know,
sure, why not?
Why not? Right. But in the meantime, before the guest starts, this little game I'm going to play with you, it's all going to start now. This is Coffee Talk, everybody. Subscribe. If you're a member, you could chat with us. If you're not, become a member. Join. It supports me. I don't want to live in a tent. It is hard to be a podcaster, a YouTube vlogger. There's no money here, right, Chuck? Tell them.
Yeah, there's nothing. I'm sorry.
Are we begging, Chuck? Yes. Yeah. This is Coffee
Talk. You know what
Talk.
we need is the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial. That's what I need.
Well, I'm gonna play a game with everybody. Don't touch that dial. It all starts now.
It's Coffee Talk with the Tika. Nothing rhymes with that but chicken tikka. We name drop here with Stephen and all his friends.
All right, here we're back in action. All right, well, before I think I have a guest. I might not have one. I might have just messed up and messed the dates up. But before the guest gets here, if they do, here's a game that I want you to play. And in the chat, Debbie Moeller, I see you. Deb Jackson. Oh, they're there. The team is here. I see your badges. You're beautiful. Here, okay. Ready, ladies? Ready, Chuck? This is what we're going to play. Guess the feet. Can you guess the feet?
Oh.
Guess whose feet those are.
Are these like famous people, or are these like?
Oh, yeah. They're famous people. You know, look at that. Look at those feet. I mean, you haven't seen feet like those before, huh? Have you? Guess the feet.
I have no idea.
Nobody knows, huh? Guess the feet. Hold on. Let's see if I can put us in the picture too over here. But this technology is StreamYard. It's a beautiful thing. Nobody
say hi to Debbie. Hi, Debbie.
Nobody could guess the feet. All right. Well, you know what? We're going to play the game. I'm not going to give away the answer yet, but guess the feet. If you can guess those feet, you know what? We'll play a little game with you. And then our guest is showing up right now. So she's in the backstage. We'll get her camera. She'll get situated. She doesn't know the mess she's going to get herself into with us. But I'm excited about this one, Chuck. Very excited about this one. So we are streaming live and members only. I will be doing clips of this show. But in the meantime, make sure everybody, you give us your feedback. Put your comments down below. Chuck Shute. Chuck, tell them about your podcast really quick while we're here.
Yeah, it's probably similar to yours. We've had some of the same guests, but yeah, guest-centered podcasts, all sorts of people, a lot of musicians, musician heavy, but you know, some actors, some comedians, some authors, some fitness experts. I had Tony Horton on. That was fun. Just a random assortment of people. Some of them are very interesting to some people might not care about them. So you can pick and choose. I'm fine with that. I got like 400 episodes almost. So
no, you're awesome. You know, Chuck, because of you, I stalk you a little bit. Now, this is the first time Chuck and I have ever co-host. And our poor guest that's coming on here, she's going to go, what the hell am I doing here? But I'm from Brooklyn. I could take it. And if she leaves, I could handle the truth. But Chuck, I brought you here because you're more civilized than me. You're like a human being here. If I do something wrong, you cover for me. don't worry about it. Just be
Oh,
yourself.
wait, I'm supposed to be the civil one?
You're
Okay.
civilized. I'm
Oh,
animalized here. We got to be very careful. I mean, my next guest coming up here, Shirley Herman. She has a book out, which I'm going to put links and get all the proper links. But it's My Peacock Tale: Secrets of an NBC backstage. Where's hold on. I think those are the people with the feet. I gave away the answer.
I saw it.
I clicked the wrong thing. Hold on.
I was going to guess one of those guys anyways. That's the funny thing.
No, don't guess it. Oh, wait, hold on. Where's the? Oh, here it is, right here, right there. There's the book, My Peacock Tale: Secrets of an NBC Page. This book, there's going to be gossip. There's going to be dirt. We all like dirt and stories of yesterday. This is when TV was TV, the 70s. Chuck, you used to watch TV in the 70s?
Briefly, because I was only in the 70s for about 2 years. But yeah, I think I was probably plopped in front of the TV a time or two.
Yeah. I have underwear older than you, Chuck.
Hey, I watched the reruns. I remember the reruns of like Taxi and MASH and some of those 70s shows.
Yeah. We I have underwear older than you. Well, since I gave away the answer before we do this, guess the feet. Well, the feet they belong to Tommy Lee, Nikki Sixx, and the new guitarist of Motley Crue, John 5. They got great feet, great nail polish, and Tommy Lee makes pink slippers look good, or whatever you call those things on the feet. I don't like them. Brooklyn guys don't wear thongs. They don't wear thongs or things or this or that. But anyway,
Not even on the beach.
We don't do that stuff.
What do you wear at the beach?
We wear shoes and socks at the beach. We're just like Russian immigrants. That's what we do. We don't do that stuff.
You wore jeans at the beach too?
You ever look at the old guys in Florida? I used to. Black socks, shorts, and messed up. Back in the day, I was just talking to Andrew Dice Clay. I just dropped something. Just now we were just talking because he just was out there, which I'm gonna give him a plug right here. Dice Clay just
he needs a plug. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I know, right? He just played out here with Guns N'
Just
Roses
open for
last
Guns N' Roses, yeah.
Right there. So I was talking to Dice, and if you go on his Instagram, you'll see him and Duff McKagan talking. But People Magazine just covered this, and Dice was wearing sneakers. I go, Andrew, you remember the day we would never wear, like the whole gig would be ruined. We would never wear sneakers at a show, at a gig. It's like it's sacrilegious. You don't do this. If you look at your shoe and the pointy the boot, you knew you're gonna have a good gig. But nowadays, at our age, that's it. Larry David sneakers you wear.
The older you get, the more comfortable you want to be.
That's right. Okay. In the meantime, I'm gonna get links, the proper links. But Shelley Herman, we have a great story with her. If I pronounce anything wrong, she'll correct me, you'll correct me, but we're going to get the gossip, the sex, the real Hollywood stories, NBC in the 70s. I want everybody to give a big cheer, a round of applause for Shelley Herman. She's right here, everybody. Welcome, Shelley.
There's a lot more people in there than I imagined with all that applause. Wow.
You know what? This is like a magic studio in Adikaville, but thank you so much for coming on the show. And this is my new co-host. I just discovered him today. I decided, you know what? Let's just have a good time. Johnny Carson had Ed McMahon. I got Chuck Shute. What about that?
Same deal. It's exactly the same.
The same deal. Well, thanks for being here. And what I'll do is I'll be doing clips and putting this out little by little, but I figure we just go live right now. Let's just get the dirt. Let's just be real, like a live TV episode. And I've been doing a little history and maybe stalking you a little bit, but do you know anything about me before we get started?
I know that you've got underwear older than Chuck.
Absolutely. Poor guy, huh? He was born when the Wiggles came on television, this guy.
Yes, I heard he was just barely in the 70s.
78, so I got 2 years, 78 and 79.
78.
And you mentioned that you watched Taxi, and I married one of the actors from Taxi.
Right, yeah, that's what Adika was saying.
Yeah,
That's
on the
right.
very first season, there was a character, John Burns, who was kind of and there he is. Look how cute he is.
There he is, handsome guy. That's right.
He it was really funny because when I worked at NBC in the mid 70s, I had met Andy Kaufman, and we became friends. And he would call the house, and I was living at home at the time, and my mother, hearing a Jewish surname, would go, Andy Kaufman's on the phone. And then I showed her his act, and she backed off right away after that. but we became friends, and he would sit in the NBC commissary and we'd have lunch, and he would talk to me. And one of the things he said, several years down the line is, my management wants me to do this sitcom, and I'm a performance artist. I don't want to do a sitcom, so don't watch it. So I was like, okay, I won't watch it. Well, I didn't watch Taxi the first year it was on. So I had to go back to the reruns later on. Of course, I loved Taxi once I discovered it. And then I met my husband, Randall Carver, who was on 24 episodes of the first season.
Wow, there he is, right there, the autograph on right there. That was the best time of TV when Taxi was on, and what a great. Okay, hold on, I got to rewind this a little bit. So first of all, Andy Kaufman, was he hitting on you, Andy? Like, did he want to go on a date with? If Randall's watching, we'll cut this out. We don't want to. Okay.
Randall's heard all these stories before. He's in the other room.
I'm a big fan of Randall's too. Okay, so tell me. I'm Jewish. I'm a Yenta from Canarsie, Brooklyn. I gotta know, what's the deal? Was he hitting on you?
I don't think he was, but I was kind of naive to a lot of that stuff because I was 20, 21 years old when I was there, and I kind of thought that the taller, prettier girls were the ones that were getting hit on, not the short, little, squatty girls like me. So it didn't occur to me. And no, he never put moves on me or anything like that. But what he did do, and I detail it in the book, it's kind of a jumble of things that came together. But Andy had this idea to do something one night at the Improv, and he asked me if I would help him. The Improv Comedy Club, for people that might not know. And it was a bit that, remember, Andy did a thing where he worked at a deli for a while because he wanted to have another job to fall back on.
It was deli on Ventura, right?
Yeah. So, which sadly is no more. So he said to me, I want to do a thing where I say I'm going to barber college, and that way I can have a license so I can cut hair if I ever need to make money. So he came up with this bit where I wore a wig and I sat in the audience, and he explained the premise and who wants a free haircut. So I raised my hand, went up on stage, and he's doing it well. And then he starts getting himself a little worked up, and he starts hacking away at the hair. And then I'm supposed to kind of start getting upset. And then somebody from the audience goes, hey, you shouldn't be doing that to that girl. And then Andy engaged him in some conversation. I run off the stage sobbing. And then Andy does his thing. So when it was over, Andy's standing in front of the Improv with this guy. And I'm not sure if it was Zamuda or not, because I wasn't sure. And he's jumping up and down like a schoolgirl. Oh, that worked. It was so much fun. It was so much fun. And they're laughing. And I'm like, I don't get it. And I think this was kind of the precursor to doing the wrestling, because he was getting an emotion out of the audience, getting people to have a feeling. That's what Andy was all about, whether it was a bad feeling, a good feeling, comedy, bewilderment. That's what he was all about. And keeping it real, even though he was the least real person when he was on stage.
Wow. So Andy, did he really planned all his stuff? He knew exactly what he was doing. Andy.
Absolutely.
Like the whole Tony Clifton and all that crazy, this character. But was he like a De Niro of these people, like believe he was that person at the moment, like method actors, a method comedian, I guess you would say.
Once he was in character, absolutely. Because the Andy that I knew was like a health food freak. I mean, I was like, oh, I'll try to get along with him and be friends. And we're eating raw cashews, and they tasted like paste. And I'm like, these are delicious. He departed from that where he loved chocolate. And even Randy, my husband, remembers going to Theodore's late night and with Andy and eating huge slices of chocolate cake. That was his heroin back there, was chocolate cake.
I totally understand it. See, Chuck's a big fan of the movie about Andy Kaufman, right, Chuck? What's the name?
Oh yeah, Man on the Moon.
Man on the Moon.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how Jim Carrey he just went all in on the Andy Kaufman, and then wasn't like friends and family. I thought that they wanted to like meet him and have conversations with him in character, like it was like therapeutic for them.
And for Jim, I was lucky enough to be on the set when they recreated the Taxi the garage for Taxi, and all of the people came back except Tony Danza. He was busy; he couldn't do the movie. But the day that I was on the set, it turned out was the day that Buffalo Bob Smith died, and Buffalo Bob Smith's best friend was Howdy Doody, and Andy's best friend in real life was Howdy Doody, and Jim spontaneously, in character, had a parade that was kind of a celebration of life for Buffalo Bob and Howdy Doody. And there's a wonderful picture that's in, it made Entertainment Weekly, where Randy's standing in the background and Jim's holding up a Howdy Doody puppet. But that was all in character improvised that Jim did. And it was just lovely. I mean, my heart kind of gets heavy thinking about it.
Yeah.
It was really beautiful.
Yeah. You know, you say that he was a health nut, Andy Kaufman. It's so crazy because he passed away from cancer. Here's a guy eating right, doing right, no drugs, right? Nothing like that.
No, nothing that I ever saw. He smoked cigarettes when he was in character as Tony Clifton. When he was in character, I've later learned, as you know, especially if you read, some of the biographies about Andy, that sometimes Bob Zamuda would be playing Tony Clifton. So they were even joking the joke on that by not even having Andy appear. When people thought they were seeing Andy, it was brilliant.
Did he ever
so brilliant?
Did he ever prank you? Did he ever play a joke on you?
No. The only thing I would say if he was pranking me would be like he would call me sometimes and he would go, "There's a big bug in my bathtub and I don't know what to do about it." And get a jar, put it in there, take it outside. If he was just trying to get a reaction from me, sometimes he would say things that seem normal and logical, but sometimes when people are like really geniuses and really smart, they don't think in the same kind of linear direction that other people do. So I would cut him a little bit of slack on that and think like, well, maybe he genuinely doesn't know what to do and he's flustered. So I didn't want to say, hey, you big dope, just do this.
Yeah. What a time, huh? That whole scene and characters like Andy and all these other people you met, and I want to go over. It's just a time that we'll never get back. It's just a whole different. I mean, now, you know what I mean? Everything's so exposed. All we had back then was maybe the National Enquirer. Now there's TMZ. Everything's on the internet. It's exposed. Britney Spears is like the new Elizabeth Taylor. She's getting another divorce. Is the breaking news. But back then you had the only time you get your gossip waiting online. If you're Jewish and cheap like me, you read the Enquirer really quick, and then when you go, oh my God, the line is up. I'm not finished about reading about Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor or something like that. It was a different time, especially.
It was a different time, and I'm actually gonna plug another book for a second.
Please do.
Because, I don't know if you're seeing this on Zoom. Do you see this backwards or forwards?
Let me make it big. No, we see it forward. It's perfect.
Okay, this book, Get Mahoney.
Yes.
This is one of my page friends, Marilee Mahoney. Her dad was basically like the Ray Donovan of publicists back in the day. And he's written this book about all the different ways the publicists used to protect the actors and try to spin things in the press so that when people like the National Enquirer would get a hold of a story, that they could take that situation and make it positive. And one of the big things in this book too is when Frank Sinatra Jr. was kidnapped.
I remember that story. Yes.
Yeah. So after people are done reading my book, if you like that era, I'm gonna say read that book because I'm loving this. And Jim is 95 years old now, and he's out doing book signings with my friend Marilee. It's really quite something. And he was okay. This is again, I'm going off topic on me.
No, don't worry. I'm nuts, so I'll follow you.
Jim tells a story about when he was a little kid. He lived in Culver City, and they were shooting The Burning of Atlanta with Gone with the Wind. And his friend said, "I'll tell you what, Jim, sell these bottles of soda for 5 cents, and I'll give you 2 cents for everyone, so that for all the camera people and extras around." And so Jim says, "So I sold the soda for 25 cents." And that way he kept this large profit over the guy. So he was already hustling as a little kid. Fabulous stories about things, how it used to be back in the old day and how actors were protected and shielded from a lot of things too.
Oh yeah. Chuck, you remember those days?
It wasn't that long ago. I
I
mean, I
know.
feel like that was still like in the 80s and 90s. That stuff was still going
So
on.
crazy. The 90s.
Now you
is
can't, I
the
mean,
old
you
days
say
behind.
anything. Did you hear about the latest about Jonah Hill? Like his ex-girlfriend spilled the beans on him. Like, I mean, anything you do is like now like public record, it seems like.
It's public.
Well, with the Inquirer, they had that, as we heard the phrase, the catch and kill stories where, but it was more, it's almost like Strangers on a Train with Hitchcock, where you do me a favor, I do you a favor.
Yeah.
And what they would do is sometimes you'd wonder these stories about, a 5-page spread on somebody that's a big star. Why are the Inquirer? Well, it's because the Inquirer had some dirt on them and said, we won't tell them about this peccadillo of yours if you agree to do this fabulous story for us. And that's how that trade out would happen.
Wow. So you see, all the inside. So the inside dirt of Hollywood when it's cool, and you were there. Okay, let's get a little backup on Shelley here, and everybody. You can find her story and her whole back to back in the book. I'll try to gloss over the good stuff. How did you get involved, first of all?
We need to gloss over the good stuff. The good stuff's good stuff.
I mean, the good stuff, I want to know who's sleeping with who and who's wearing a hair who has a fake hair, the hair transplants, the wig. My best friend, the drummer of Kiss, we always talk about that guy's wearing a wig. He goes, Stephen, I wear a wig. And I know who wears wigs. So we make jokes about that. That's what we do. When we get older, us guys, we want to know who's bald and who's not. So I want to know the old Hollywood stories from you, old dirt.
Well, Frank Sinatra wore a piece. I think most people know that.
But nobody would dare to make fun of Sinatra.
Oh, no.
No.
Oh, no. The total respect. The good story.
Yes.
And I know that you've got a rock and roll element to your shows and stuff. So I'll just start at the very beginning, which is how I went to see Elvis in Vegas.
That's a perfect one because this is Elvis week, and yesterday is the day that Elvis passed away.
I remember exactly where I was.
Where were you?
Yeah. I was at NBC. And the one thing about working at a network like that is you hear news before the rest of the world does. And we had like maybe a 3 or 4 minute time where we all knew he died and the rest of the country didn't know he died. So that was like really strange to have that going on. And then
Wow.
You knew that this bomb was going to drop in a few minutes and the whole world was going to be mourning. I mean, it was very odd. It was the same way with Michael Jackson too. I was working on a show and somebody had gotten wind that Michael was at UCLA and we're like, uh-oh. And then around 1 PM, we all heard here on the West Coast.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. You know what? I remember when Elvis died, I was 10. An ice cream truck rolled down the street and the ice cream man goes, "Hey kid, you know Elvis died." I'm like, "No way." And I ran up the stairs. "Mom, Elvis is dead." And I remembered exactly. I remember John Lennon, and I remember these are certain things in life that you will never forget. It's crazy. When you heard the news about Elvis passing away at NBC, because that's what he had a 68 comeback. That's
Yeah.
You were at the Burbank NBC, correct?
I was there, and I certainly, that was one of the first stages I walked onto, is where they did the Elvis. And thank for your listeners, is PBS runs it quite a bit. They should watch that. It's kind of funky and kind of groovy, but Elvis singing "If I Could Dream" at the end. Oh my gosh, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it.
Oh.
No, and the odd thing is I wasn't like totally into Elvis when I went to see him because I was like a Beatles girl. But one of the women I worked with at Sears, in the junior bazaar department, her dad got us 5 tickets to go see Elvis. So the girls piled in the car, drove to Vegas, dressed up like we were old enough to be in there, wearing hot pants, and we were wearing fake hair. We were wearing little things in our hair to make our hair look bigger and stuff like Priscilla, and saw this phenomenal man. And if you saw the Austin Butler movie and the sequences that were at the Hilton in Vegas, it was just like that.
Mm-hmm.
The noise, the people, the energy. It was, and Elvis had just started gaining a little weight when I had seen him. So that was a little off-putting. and he was sweating a lot. And he would do the thing where he'd have the scarf around his neck and he'd pat his head, and then the women front row would take the scarf off and keep it as a souvenir. And then the women would come we were sitting ringside, and women would come to the stage crushing us, and they would, with flowers and jewelry and crosses and squash blossom necklaces. And it was just, I had never seen this kind of energy or excitement ever in my life. And I've been privileged to see a lot of rock concerts since. Nothing like
Wow.
Elvis.
Wow. And one of a kind. I just had on the show, and I'm releasing actually, If I Could Dream episode. I had a 2-hour conversation with Steve Binder.
The best. The best. Yeah.
90 years old, sharp as a tack. Right now, I'll give Steve a little, if I could pull this up here. Maybe I can now that I'm all like my computer. Oh, that's the Dr. G. That's the wrong guy. The thing is stuck. Wonderful cat. And he was the guy that told Elvis in the movie, for you young kids watching, don't know the story. And so the movie, Elvis, your career's in the toilet. So big time guy, and a great documentary called Reinventing Elvis. So, which is all at the NBC, which is right here. There's a little plot for that, and I'll put links so you guys could click on that. So yeah, Elvis was one of a kind. Let me ask you, on the top of your head, well, let's go back to you. How did you get involved with NBC to get a job there?
Back to rock and roll. I was a student at Agora High School when it was just a little bit more than a one-horse town. And one of the students who had just transferred into the school was a guy named Steve Cohen. Mm-hmm. And Steve's dad, Shelley Cohen, was one of the people involved with The Tonight Show. If Doc Severinsen couldn't conduct the orchestra and Tommy Newsom couldn't conduct, then Shelley was the third guy. He was in line for it. So Steve said, who wants to go see Midnight Special being taped? So yeah. So a bunch of us went down there and sat on pillows on the floor like a bunch of little hippie kids. And I noticed these people standing around in these ugly polyester uniforms who were getting paid to listen to rock and roll music all day for their job. And I thought, I could do that. Because the only thing I had on my resume is that I had volunteered as an usher at a local theater here in Los Angeles. So at least I had something for my resume. And I didn't realize that the NBC Page program to this day is like the premier executive recruiting opportunity for people looking to get into the entertainment industry. They say about 16,000 applications are received each year. And they do it online now. I was just calling on the phone constantly when I was doing it. Mm-hmm. They say about 2% of those people get an opportunity to interview for the job. And to NBC's credit, what they're doing is they're flying people either out to Hollywood or to New York. And NBC's picking up the tab for that so that they can meet them in person. Because they know a lot of people can't afford to go for a job interview like this if they, don't live in the area. And once you get the job, you have 18 months to make all the contacts you have, learn everything you need to learn. Maybe you don't want to be in showbiz after working there for 18 months, but hopefully you've made the contacts to get out. And the statistic they like to cite is it's easier to get into Harvard than to become an NBC Page. So the fact that I got in at all is amazing, because I'm not like a smarty pants person at all. I just got in.
Wow. Chuck, you hear this? If we're in the wrong time.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's like trying to be a professional YouTuber. It's like this. It's like probably easier to get into Harvard than to make money on YouTube. So
it was more of a scene community. I had a job in the 80s at Circus Magazine in Manhattan when I was living in Manhattan as a mailroom guy. And then from there, I made friends with the owner. He used to have a magazine called Hullabaloo. I'm sure you remember Hullabaloo. Jerry Rothberg was the owner. And it was just a small, because I was in this music scene, and it's who you know. It's more of a scene, and if you could connect with people, it's a different world now. Now you got LinkedIn. It's a bunch of lies on a piece of paper. You don't even know what you're getting, People that aren't even into the arts don't even, it's a whole different world nowadays. So that's how you got through rock and roll, brought you into NBC. And everybody, if you're watching now, this is Shelley Herman, her book right here. I'll put a picture there for you guys. I'll put links down below. My Peacock Tale, Secrets of an NBC Page. And we're gonna, right here's a photograph of you by the studios, and there you are. Is that a photograph on I guess the left of the screen. Is that you when you first started at NBC?
That was me when I first started, and that's on the set of The Gong Show.
The Gong Show, Chuck Barris. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
I got to know about Chuck because he seems like such a character, and all the stories with the FBI and all the who is the real Chuck Barris? What is his story? That's you reaching out your hand to Chuck in that photograph, correct?
Yes, that's me with my hippie hair. Yes.
Oh, excellent. Okay, what's the real Chuck? Because Chuck Shoot wants to know about Chuck Barris.
Well,
right,
no, I
Chuck?
saw that movie. That was an interesting movie where, yeah. So is there any truth to that FBI thing? Was he just crazy?
Well, those are so many questions. I first met Chuck and all of the wonderful people with the Chuck Barris organization in 1972 when I was a contestant on The Dating Game.
Whoa.
Yes. And I also did The Dating Game in 1973. I did the nighttime version where the first trip we went to San Diego, which is like a 2-hour drive from where I live. And the second trip, it was kind of funny because my bachelor came. I picked this guy and came around the side, saw him, and they said, "And you two have won a trip to the Bahamas." And I hugged the guy I was with, and I said, "Where are the Bahamas?" I had no idea. I was 18. And I told you again, I wasn't going to get into Harvard. So once I got these two opportunities to hang out with the Chuck Barris people, and P.S. I dated one of the guys that was working for Chuck Barris, so that's why I hung around a while. I got to know them. They were wonderful and funny, and Chuck is so smart. He really is, and that's what people don't give him credit for. He could take a situation, much like someone we spoke of earlier, Andy Kaufman, and take something and twist it a certain way where you go, wait, is this real or is this a put on?
Yeah.
You know, with the Gong Show, we would see people would audition for the Gong Show. We knew who the acts were that weren't very good. And sometimes Chuck would pull them aside during an audition and say, you know what, do this, do that, and I could get you on the show. And he would tweak the act to make it even more bizarre, to make it entertaining for television. And I found that this was a case where we would do game show run-throughs, where if he was trying to develop a new idea for a show, Chuck was right in there, man. And he welcomed everybody's contributions. It was a very communal atmosphere that way. Same with, he did a show that was called The New Treasure Hunt. And the same kind of thing where the host, Jeff Edwards, they'd pick somebody from the audience, stop tape. Jeff would have to memorize like a little skit about opening the box, not opening the box, to see if the woman got the money. And Chuck would be in all of these bull sessions too, and he'd go, you know, try this, Jeff, and try that. And he was there, and there was always great food, and Chuck was playing the guitar during the breaks. I mean, he never stopped. And so the fact that you're even asking if he was a member of the CIA, even to this day, I find that that's a testament to his creativity.
Well, because didn't he later say that it was all BS or something? He was just messing with people.
You know, the whole idea of being in the CIA is not to be as flamboyant as Chuck. And I don't really think that he would have put himself in that kind of danger, especially, and I go into the book in a little bit more detail about this, but not to be a total bummer about it, but he had a daughter that he adored. And I don't think he would have done anything to put himself in danger when Della was alive. So I don't think he was.
Interesting story he has. Did anybody ever become famous from the Gong Show?
Oh yeah. Pee Wee Herman, Paul Rubens.
Oh, he was on the Gong Show?
Several times. Because
Wow.
if you were a member of at the time it was just AFTRA, now Screen Actors Guild and AFTRA has merged, you got a fee for being on the show. So regardless if you won the show that day, and Chuck would have Paul Rubens on a lot doing different shtick so that Paul could make money. Mare Winningham was and she's since won Tony's on Broadway. Some people became famous just for being on the show. Like Murray Langston was the unknown comic. He got a career doing that. There was a guy, Gene the Dancing Machine.
Loved Gene.
Gene was one of the stagehands at NBC. And when the show was running a little short and they needed something to quick fill in, they just grabbed Gene and he just did his silly little dance, and it became a phenomenon.
It was just a last second thing. Oh, what are we going to do? Just grab him.
We need to fill some time. Yeah. We ran out of acts.
Incredible. Incredible. Those, how about when JP Morgan, didn't she get Flash on the Gong Show, and then she got banned from the show? Is that true? She got
We
banned?
had been warned a lot not to do it. And sometimes she would flash in a way that wasn't on camera, just to give the crew a thrill.
Oh, really?
But in another one of those, if you could find it somewhere on YouTube or something, there is a Gong Show movie that Chuck and Robert Downey Sr. wrote. Not my favorite film.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit like watching a movie, like a home movie that your drunk uncle shot. But I adore seeing Chuck and Della and everybody. So I'm glad there's at least that little piece of history that's still preserved.
Yeah, I don't know too much about Chuck's personal life, but he was producing. He was doing a lot of shows, Chuck, correct?
Chuck is the only producer to have 28 hours of television running in 1 week on, at the time, all 3 networks and in syndication.
Incredible. Did he do the Dating Game?
Dating Game, Newlywed Game, $1.98 Beauty Contest, How's Your Mother-in-Law, and the one that was called Three's a Crowd. That was probably the one that got Chuck out of the business, him personally, because he was like, I can't do this anymore. And that was one where they had a husband, a wife, and a secretary who knew him best. So it got a little smarmy.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Wow. How crazy. Okay. So tell me about, and Chuck, cut me off anything, because I want you to be a part of this too, but I love these Hollywoods, but I have to ask, because I was reading about John Travolta and Diana Hyland. I remember that she was the mother from Eight is Enough. And that was his girlfriend. She was a little older than him at the time. I forget the age difference. And she bought him the Saturday Night Fever suit, and she passed away while he was doing Saturday Night Fever. She was like the love of his life. And tell me a Travolta story about that.
Well, they had actually met doing a TV movie of the week called The Boy in the Plastic Bubble. Mm-hmm. And it was based on the true incident about a kid who had problems with his skin and with the allergies and stuff. So the only way he could interact with people is if he was completely isolated and not, like in a sterile environment. And she played his mother in the movie.
And Robert Reed was the father, I think, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think so. And special guest appearance by Buzz Aldrin. I remember that too, because the Aldrin family went to Agora High School at a certain point. And I remember when Buzz did that movie. So Diana Hyland had been diagnosed with breast cancer and did not live long enough to receive her Emmy Award. So John went up on stage to get the award for her. And if you, YouTube, again, if you want to look at the video, it's so touching because they have a still of her picture up there when she won. And it's almost like she's looking down at him, the way they've shot it. It's really poignant. And he was very emotional when he accepted the award on her behalf. And my job as a page was to escort the winners off the stage and then take them down a hallway to a press room where they could ask them more questions. But so John came off stage and he immediately sat down in a metal folding chair and was sobbing, like head in hands, just sobbing. And I quick grabbed a bunch of Kleenex from the makeup area because it was like not a pretty cry, it was an ugly cry. And I handed it to him and I said, here. And he like looked up at me with those tears coming out of his eyes. And then he like grabbed me around the waist and he was like sobbing and sobbing and sobbing. And I just said, do you want to get out of here? And he nodded. And so I hid him in one of the dressing rooms backstage at the Pasadena Civic Center and kind of stood in front of the door and people were looking for him. And I just, nope, don't know where he is. And then finally when he composed himself and wanted to come out, and I said, are you ready? And he said, yeah. And I walked him down the hallway and he gave me a little squeeze of the hand and then went in and met the press afterward.
Wow. You got to put that face on, that face, that happy face. How do you do that?
I don't know, man, but I wish I'd never watched. There's my Page uniform back over there.
Oh,
That's
let me make the picture bigger for a second. Oh, wow. Oh, that's
That's
wild.
my old uniform. I wish I'd never washed it. I would have had a lot of John Travolta's DNA tears on that.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's wild. And these stories are all in the book as well. So everybody,
Oh yeah,
the
I
stories
mean
like
that was like just one of the just wonderfully crazy things that happened. It was a 1977 Primetime Emmy Awards, and it was one of those things like if I could do any night over again as a Page, that would be that night. It was really, really marvelous.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a couple of names here, and first thing that comes to mind. Okay, you ready for this, Chuck? Shoot. This is a game I just made up right now talking to her. I have no idea what I'm doing, and if I scare you away, Shelley, don't worry about it. I could take it. Alrighty.
Okay, doctor.
You could plead the fifth right here. I'll give you 5 names. Johnny Carson.
Thank God we had Johnny Carson. If you consider he started the show October 2nd, 1962, and at one point it was 90 minutes long. It got cut down to 60 minutes. He was the one thing America could count on night after night. If Johnny Carson told a joke about something, somehow it made it all right. He kind of, if it was a Nixon joke, a Nancy Reagan psychic, air traffic controllers, whatever it was, if Johnny kind of gave the thumbs up to it in a joke, it was okay, we're going to be okay. And even as a little kid, I would stay up and watch the monologues because we didn't have DVRs or anything back then. When I was a kid, we barely had a TV antenna. So that seemed to be the water cooler talk also, was whatever Johnny said. It was fun because we would just so happen to have our NBC tours waiting as Johnny got out of his white Corvette to walk into the studio every day, and he would say to the tourists, like, get your money back, the tour is a ripoff, something like that, and it would make everybody's day. Very professional, very tightly run ship, had to be. He went from 5 days a week to 3 days a week at a certain point, but the staff was constantly working, constantly honing what needed to be done for the show, and I don't think the Tonight Show has been the same since.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give you another name right here. Robin Williams.
Oh, the first thing that comes to mind for me is he was hairy and sweaty, and coarse hair on his arms. They were doing a revival of Laugh-In at NBC, and this was before Mork and Mindy. And Robin was there as one of the ensemble players. And then like we'd see him around town. There was a bar called the Ginger Man that Carol O'Connor was part owner of. Robin would go to the Ginger Man, the different comedy clubs. And at one point, and it's detailed in the book a little more specifically, but a friend of mine wanted to audition for something at the Comedy Store. So I went along with her as like moral support. And because of Robin, I was picked for the job and my friend wasn't. But Robin helped me with that. And I wasn't involved with drugs and alcohol back in the day. I was too tired. I was too broke. I was going to college. I was working. So I don't know any of those other aspects of him. I just know him to be a very generous and kind and a laugh. If you heard Robin laugh, if you made Robin laugh, it made my day.
So you had just a good vibe from him.
Yeah, a good guy.
Good
really
guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's another one. This is a legend. This is a good one. Cary Grant.
Oh, you found that? It must have been on the internet. Yeah. Okay, that's a 17-year-old me. My friend Mark Dresser was a high school student friend of mine, and he took pictures at the Montessori school in Santa Monica. His mother owned the school. So for the class pictures, he took the pictures of everybody. So I was talking to him at school one day, and he says, I'm so scared. I have to go to Cary Grant's house to give him pictures of his daughter, Jennifer. And I went, I'll go with you, not thinking he would say that I could. So we went. He was living in the Malibu colony, in the special restricted gated area. went to his house, could not have been more charming. And I spent maybe about 2 hours with him. The fact that he spent time with me at all, I was amazed. But, and no one's ever asked this story before, so this is an exclusive. He had this Polaroid camera. It wasn't that big, the big one that was where you peel it off and then put the goo on it. It was the new version where it would just spit out the picture, and like 30 seconds later it would develop. So he asked me about it, and he said that Polaroid wanted him to endorse the camera. And I don't have them. He took a couple pictures of me with it. And he just said, I don't know about this thing. It looks like kind of a plastic gadget. I don't know. He says, plus I don't feel comfortable endorsing products. And it later went on where Laurence Olivier was the person who became the spokesperson for that camera.
That's right. That's right. And if you watch Saturday Night Fever, something just hit in my head. I remember Travolta made a comment to the girl Stephanie, the girl that his love interest in the movie, or she made a comment about Laurence Olivier and the Kodak commercial around that.
Polaroid.
A Polaroid. That's
Yeah.
Polaroid. I remember that. I remember that exactly when he was doing that. That's wild. Wow. That's a great picture of you guys right here.
Thank you. I loved that dress.
Do you still have it? Do you still have
Oh,
the
I
dress?
wish I did. And if I did, it would not fit exactly the same way anymore, unfortunately.
That's cool Hollywood in its time. Let me ask you. I see there's a bunch of names here in the bio that I have in front of me. So I'm going to pick out a name over here. Freddie Prinze. I was a big fan of Chico and the Man. Freddie Prinze.
Again, I'm going to point your listeners to YouTube. There's a wonderful story in the book about Freddie's debut on The Tonight Show and how it almost didn't happen. And if you want to see a star being born, that's the moment. Freddie Prinze was 19 when he made his stand-up debut on The Tonight Show. And once he was cast on the show Chico and the Man, that also starred Jack Albertson, was The Man, Freddie's life took off like a rocket ship, and he really wasn't prepared for it. What I later learned also is that he had actually tried suicide when he was 15 years old.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Read the book.
Wow, I got to read the book for sure.
And what was interesting too is that in doing this, I had no intention of writing a book. Let's start with that. But when the pandemic hit and I got on Zoom and could connect with some of the people I used to work with who didn't live in California anymore, we all started telling stories. And one girl had this very pristine story about her friendship with Freddie. And then another one had the not so good story about Freddie. And then suddenly the book started coming together with everybody's different. And I mean, I've got a thing with Donald Trump in the book that I had left before a particular incident happened. And then my friend Courtney said, "Oh, this is what you missed." So that's kind of how it all came together. And the thing about Freddie too, his family actually won a lawsuit against the doctors who'd been overprescribing medicine to Freddie. And, you know, a lot of times when you hear something's a suicide, you think that's it. There's no life insurance. There's no nothing. But his family did get a little something. Got a lot of something.
Wow. Interesting. Alfred Hitchcock.
Same Emmy Award show that I mentioned earlier. Just when I thought I was done for the day, that I could relax, all of a sudden this black stretch limousine pulls up, open the door, and out came Alfred Hitchcock. And he was a surprise guest that was going to be at the Emmy Awards that evening. So my friend Jeff Garrett grabs one arm, I grabbed the other one, and I was holding at least half of his body weight. And Mr. Hitchcock walked very, very slowly. And if you've been on a set or backstage, you know, there's lots of cords and things for people to stumble over, especially in the dark. Now, I had done my senior thesis on Hitchcock, and I wanted to talk to him so badly and tell him my life story. But I'm trying to be professional. And while Jeff and I are carrying him backstage, he looks over at me and he says, "You're doing a very good job." And I said, "I did my senior's thesis on you. Ask me anything about you and I'll tell you about you." And he kind of gave me like a very impishy kind of smile. And Jeff and I just got him to the stage and we ran off and the curtains parted. And then Mr. Hitchcock was able to go out on stage at the end of the Emmy Awards.
He went out. He was known as a little I don't know if I'm saying it the right way or wrong way. From Chuck, shoot, you'll cover my words here. Was he a little Harvey Weinsteinish? There's little things of him trying to hit on the women over there. There's stories about him out there. You know anything?
Yes.
Did you see the movie? There's a movie about him.
But also some of the women, like Tippi Hedren specifically.
Yeah.
It might not necessarily have been always of a sexual nature, but also of a psychological nature, to try to get the women to be maybe thrown off their game a little bit so that he could control them a little bit.
Yes.
And he loved food. He was like, he loved did you watch that movie, Adika?
I did not see it.
You gotta see that. I think it's Anthony Hopkins plays him. It's interesting.
Yeah, the Anthony Hopkins version is a really good one. There was one that was on HBO that I saw that was a little bit cringy.
Yeah.
Did you see a lot of there must have been a lot of the Weinstein stuff going on in the 70s and 80s though. I mean, like that stuff that wasn't talked about back then. It was all swept under the rug.
Well, I had an incident that happened to me, and I'm going to say that in talking to my page friends, guys were hitting on guys too. So it wasn't just the women. And that whole boys will be boys kind of thing kind of was the pervasive attitude. And again, in my book, I detail an incident that happened with McLean Stevenson. And I was able to get out of it. I'm fine. I am. It took me a while to process everything. And in writing the book, it really helped me realize, because I know somebody who was friends with McLean. And I said, I want to write this thing and I'm just not sure. And my friend said, do it. Because when I described to him what happened, he said, yeah. And that it wasn't an isolated incident. So
It never is.
Yeah.
Did you see the Brooke Shields show? That was also really eye-opening and interesting. She had it really bad because she was so beautiful. Like she was the most beautiful woman, and then she was also like it happened when she was very young. It was really creepy.
Well, the way that she was served up on a platter in Pretty Women too. It's it was not Pretty Women.
Pretty Baby.
Pretty Baby with Susan Sarandon. I think that while Louis Malle was a very artistic director and Susan Sarandon is an esteemed actress, the optics of it, I think, really messed her childhood up.
Sad.
I can't imagine how, again, I know it's artistic. I just can't imagine a mother putting their child in that situation.
It's sad, but this is Hollywood, and these stories have been going on since back in the day in different times.
It's not just Hollywood, though. I'm gonna
go after me. Go crazy.
It's happening everywhere with women and with men, and I don't think that I've been to a job in the last 5 years where there isn't an HR person that comes and says, okay, this is what it is, and you can't do this and you can't do this now. It's like those days are over. And this is happening to civilians as well as showbiz people. And that's one of the reasons I said the thing about McLean, because I was acting in a professional capacity doing my job. And this situation happened. And it's happening to men and women. So the more people talk about it, the more light that's shown on this. I think everybody will be safer in their work environments.
No, I had a nurse friend, and she said the same. She said, "Wait till this the Me Too thing hits the medical profession, because she said it's really bad there with doctors and nurses and all that."
I can imagine. I could totally imagine. It's crazy. And
at the same time, allowing, if a natural relationship comes from something like that, yes, go to the HR people, go, hey, you know what? We are kind of attracted to each other and we're dating. And is this going to be a power thing, or we're just putting it out in the open so that there is no debate about what's happening? It's a shame that human resources has to get involved in people's private lives, but the power struggles still exist with this sort of thing. And I'm just really glad that people are talking about it now. And again, men and women, that they're talking about it.
Yeah, Kevin Spacey targeted a lot of men.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, right? Yes, yeah.
I mean, that's the question I got to ask. This is an open discussion.
He wears a toupee. Back to the beginning part of it.
He wore a toupee. He was a great Bobby Darin. But you know, well, I think he did a pretty good job as a
First of all, I loved Bobby Darin.
Yeah.
And my friend Jeff Edwards, who had done Treasure Hunt, and he knew Bobby, and he just said the movie was just he couldn't stand it. He had to walk out.
He had to walk out, huh? He
Yeah.
had to walk out of it. He didn't like Spacey as a Bobby, huh? No.
Huh.
No.
Shows you what taste I got. You know.
No, but we love Bobby's music, and we
But
like
the
to see it and hear it anywhere we can. But it was a weird movie.
Yeah. But what a talented cat, the real Bobby Darin.
Oh,
was
yeah.
So talented. But you know what? You don't know, like, allegedly, when you say about Kevin, you don't know where the truth lies too, because then you don't know when somebody's getting set up. So you don't know what the real story is. And even what's going on in TMZ, this Britney Spears, I mean, she's always posting anyway, and she comes off, and this is just me saying this, not anybody else. So if anybody wants to throw a rock, throw it at me. But she comes off like a lunatic. I'll just straight out. It's like she has a pole, she's dancing, she's, different marriages, her kids are in Hawaii. It's just, you add it up. It's like, what's going on here? And then this guy.
I think we know what's going on, and we know she's grappled with mental illness before. So,
and this guy could have took advantage of it, and now he's trying to up the ante and wants more money out of it.
I don't know that, but I do know that the girl seems like she's in need of medication.
Yeah, she needs help.
Yeah,
the poor girl. It's
Sometimes it's too late though. I used to work in a mental hospital, and sometimes people, they fry their brain with drugs, and it's like there's nothing you can do. I mean, you can't repair the brain damage. It's kind of sad.
Illness. It's sad. It is very sad. What about shenanigans? Do you ever, while you were working at NBC, you ever walk in and see two people together that shouldn't be together, that were married? And if you could drop the names right here, I won't say anything. Nobody's listening.
Shenanigans.
It's a good word of the day.
I knew people were dating there. And it would be kind of fun because there were 2 pages. Again, I found this out when I was researching the book, that they would slip the concierge at a hotel like Tonight Show tickets, so the concierge could, give them to the guests, and in exchange for getting free hotel rooms so that they could have a little afternoon delight at the hotel.
Oh, wow. And who are those people that we must think of?
Chuck
wants to know.
They're very good friends of mine. They're not famous people, but they did eventually get married too. So that was nice.
All right. I'm going to give, yeah.
There was a thing that, and again, I had never heard this term before. Perhaps you gentlemen had, about pulling tail. I had never heard it, but sometimes the guys would work the different lines of Tonight Show or Midnight Special, and if they saw a particularly attractive girl, they'd pull tail and say, "Hey, baby, you want a front row seat, and let's go to dinner afterwards." So those kind of things happen, but. Again,
Sounds like it was more classy back then. It was a little more like you had to ask for a date more so than.
I guess.
Right?
Well, but there was there's a story that goes around. I'm not naming names on this one, but there's an alleged incident that happened where one of the women online said, "I'll do anything to meet Fred de Cordova," who was the executive producer of The Tonight Show. And the guys went, "Anything?" And allegedly they took her backstage and she performed a service for both of them separately. And she never met Fred de Cordova, but they just.
So did she? Yeah. She never. So did she want her money back and say, "Hey, I want"? Who'd she complain?
No. She just did. I mean, one of the guys in the story, I totally believe it happened to, and the other one, I believe it. There's no way he would have allowed that. No. So that's one of the stories that goes around. But no, everything was consensual otherwise that I know about.
What about drugs and booze? And because like my dad said, like if he watched Mad Men, and he said that's how it was back in the 70s. Like people drank at work and stuff, which is like weird to think of now. A lot of people don't. You can't drink at most workplaces, but back then people were drinking. Was there other drugs and stuff going on too?
There were more than a few occasions when there'd be remnants in the dressing room after midnight special. A lot of Jack Daniel. That seemed to be like the beverage of choice for a lot of people. Occasionally you'd smell weed, but that was no big deal. And at the Tonight Show, there was a guy, Jack Grant, who was the head prop guy. And if a celebrity wanted a cocktail before going out, that he would provide that. I know like Jimmy Kimmel and Leno tried it also for a while. It was just basically an open bar, and open bar wasn't a good idea. The one drink was usually a better idea.
That was Ed McMahon. Was he sometimes a little?
Never saw any of the people on camera blasted. No.
Never.
No, it's too important to do the job.
Because he always seemed a little tipsy, but you couldn't tell. Maybe some people could carry it, like a Dean Martin always seemed a little. Or was it an act?
That's another one that it's supposed to be an act. But with Ed McMahon, there's again another famous clip that's on like maybe Carson Enterprises YouTube page, where Johnny suspects that Ed was a little inebriated at the beginning of the show. So I'll tell you another little thing that they would do. Mm-hmm. If a guest would get bumped from the show, they would go back in and re-record the opening of the show so that you wouldn't hear that the person got bumped. So I think Ed kind of had to keep his act together, at least for the 60 minutes, so that he could go back and redo that if they needed it.
Oh, wow. That's funny. Okay, we'll give you one more name and then we'll let you get out of here. But there's a lot of fun time talking with you as well. You know,
I'm enjoying this. And Chuck, speak up more.
Oh, right? Sorry. Yes. Whatever you want to.
Chuck, well, I'll stay on longer, Chuck, if you have some more questions. I don't want to cut it, but I'm going to do this and then think of some questions while I make Shelley over here think about this one. Okay, this one I want to really know about this character. Okay, I'm going to get this name out to you. All righty? Got to know about. You might know him as John Burns, but Randall Carver. I want to know first name.
Hang on a second. Let me see if John Burns is available.
Oh, that would be awesome. It'd be awesome to have.
You want to come and say hi on my podcast?
To me, this would be a thrill if he would come on right now to have Randall on here.
Live right now.
We could.
Okay, we're gonna have. It's gonna be like Bob Hope making a surprise.
I love it. I love it. Oh, this is great, Randall. This is great. Okay. This is excellent. This is a legend right here. Here it is, right here. Oh my goodness, this is fabulous right here. Randall, first of all, sir, I gotta give him a round of applause right here. Listen to this. Oh, beautiful. This is beautiful right here, right here. There he is, Randall Carver. I cannot believe it, Chuck. This is like history to me. First of all, can I just fanboy out for a second here? I grew up. I love this man, and I'm asking your wife personal questions and about you. But it's about you. But it's an honor to have you here. Thank you very much for just popping on here, Randall. I'm Stefan, and that's my friend Chuck over here. Not Chuck Barrett, Chuck Shute. Right on. Wonderful. Randall, got to ask you a question.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Favorite rock and roll album?
What?
Your favorite rock and roll record?
I think it was Bill Haley and the Comets, Rock Around the Clock.
Is that your favorite album? Would that be your favorite song?
My first favorite album.
Really? That would be the first one, huh? How about favorite band? Do you have a favorite band?
The Band.
Wow. Very great, huh? Last Waltz. Great movie, too. My favorite, The Band.
Love that band. That made me just love rock and roll even more.
And we not too long ago we saw Billy Joel and Stevie Nicks over at SoFi Stadium.
Yeah.
How great is Stevie Nicks? How great is she?
She's phenomenal.
My friend is her backup singer, Sharon Solani. Has been with her since Belladonna, recorded on the record. Because originally Stevie wanted to do a Crosby, Stills and Nash type band and was going to make it a band with the girls. And Sharon's been with her forever. But I just went to see them, and it's magical, really, truly magical.
Yeah.
And the band. Okay, so we got that. Let's see. Favorite couple song for you two. What's your favorite couple song?
Favorite couple.
What's the one that for our dance at our wedding? Do you remember?
Oh yes, the Book of Love. Yeah.
Well, no, the Peter Gabriel Book of Love is what we went down the aisle to, but our first dance was Joe Cocker, You Are So Beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, great song. Great song. What's your favorite era of music? Would it be 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s?
I really like the late '60s, early '70s a lot. You know, when Simon and Garfunkel came on the scene, I really glommed onto them, and of course the early Elton John. You know,
Yeah,
Friends and all that. Yeah.
you can't get better than that music. This is so, you know, it's so great that you have such great taste in music. And when I would watch you, because you're always on all these shows, especially Taxi, it's like you would have got the face on TV that was like, this could be my friend. Like, he's my friend on TV, like right there. It's like, that's the friendly guy.
That's great. That's wonderful to know. Thank you so much for saying.
I thank you, man. Favorite movie?
Well, of course, I do like the Midnight Cowboy a great deal because it was my first movie, and so I really like that movie a lot. And but the one that really sets it off, I remember my father and I saw this movie together in a little bitty town in Texas, and it was at the little theater there, and not the little theater, but the little movie house there, and it was called The High and the Mighty.
The High and
the airplane was based on that. But I saw that when I was a kid with my dad, and John Wayne in that song whistled a song during the thing, and it was.
No, don't try it. You know, also, Randy talked about how his first film that he got a SAG card with was Midnight Cowboy, and the last feature film he did was There Will Be Blood, and both of them won Best Motion Picture Oscars. And trivia, Midnight Cowboy is the only X-rated film that's won an Academy Award.
Yeah,
that's true. You know, Midnight Cowboy is one of my favorite movies. And you want to hear something funny? When I had Steve Binder on the show, we were talking about this. I just had him on last week, Steve, and then Steve was telling me, he was telling Elvis, why don't you pay the studios just to be in that movie? I go, did Elvis listen to you? He goes, no, he would never listen to me, but he was giving him advice, just pay, because that would be a great movie for him to take. And I go, I didn't know that Elvis would even consider doing Midnight Cowboy. Picture him as Joe Buck. Right? What a great, Chuck, you ever seen Midnight Cowboy?
Oh yeah, John Voight. Yeah, great movie.
Rats Over His Own, and Joe Buck, a crazy, great movie. That's, some movies should be remade, and that one should never be remade. They should leave it alone and just let it be, because it's a great film. Great film.
I can't imagine them redoing that.
I couldn't either. When he, you know, Steve, when he was telling me about that, I was like, whoa, you know, I was like shocked. And we all know Star is Born was one that he wanted to do, but never happened. And you know, I'm going to share a little story with you. I play in a band, and I got to meet at a time, and this is years ago, it was at the Canyon Club. We were doing a benefit, and I was playing with guys from Guns N' Roses, all the Star band, and Jeff Conway came up to me, and he was going to play. He came up to me and he wanted to play, but I think he was a little, and I'm like, you know, and I'm like, oh my God, this is Jeff Conway. I grew up with him, and I was like, you know, and I had to tell him, no, I'll never forget that story. Like, you know, because he couldn't play the song, but that was my 2 minutes with Bobby Wheeler for a second, the character from Taxi. But you know, Randall, I'm sure you have fantastic stories, and thank you for even just popping on here really quick.
Can I ask him a question real quick?
Yeah, go ahead, Chuck. I'm just hogging him to myself now. I'm sorry.
No, because I saw you worked on the Norm show with Norm Macdonald. I'm a huge Norm Macdonald fan. Like, if I could have picked, he would have been in my top 5 dream guests. I think do you have a funny Norm Macdonald story? Because there's got to be something there.
Well, he between on the Norm show, when they were setting up shots and doing all this stuff, in the meantime, they would go out and play basketball, and they had a basketball hoop, and Artie was there, and they'd all play basketball, and it was a big deal. and I was gonna go play poker with them, and then I decided not to when I heard what the how much the chips are going to be worth there. And it was a little too rich for my blood, so I passed on there.
Yeah, because didn't he lose like all his money gambling or something like that?
I don't think he did lose it all.
He lost a lot.
He paid some, yeah.
Also, Chuck, you were talking about, we mentioned that Man on the Moon because you said you were a big fan of that movie.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how much of this. Let me
make that bigger for you right here. Oh yeah, yeah.
That's that picture
cool.
of Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
And then
Wow.
there's pictures of Mary Lou's over there, and Randy's right there, and that's Jim Carrey doing his tribute to Howdy Doody.
Excellent.
Oh, that's so cool.
Excellent.
We
Excellent
got
picture.
that framed.
Yeah, that's a great picture.
What a memory.
Great picture. Great stories, man.
Yeah.
You know what? It's just great. You know, Shelley, thanks for bringing Randall on here as well. And this is great to have you on here for the quick second. And you know what? Everybody watching, I want to put the links down below. I want you to check out the book. I'll make sure everything is up there. Let me pop up a picture really quick. And see, this is why I don't have a producer or a director or anything. I have to do it myself. And my eyes, I'll pop up the wrong thing. But right here, my Peacock Tale, Secrets of an NBC Page, right there by Shelley, Herman. And this is a great read. I want you to catch that. And how long you guys been married for over here?
We're celebrating our 11th wedding anniversary, December 12th. What is it? December 12th? What is it? December 12th, 2012.
21st.
21st, because it was 12.
12.
That's when we got married.
Wow. Wow. Congratulations. You know, I want to ask them a question. Randall, when you first met Shelley, what did you say to yourself? Did you say she's the one? Tell me. I want to know.
I
the
first
story.
saw Shelley on a dating game, and she was on that show, and I saw her on that show, and I was just knocked out by her. And I even said a little prayer, oh God, please let me meet her, please. And she did another dating game, and I happened to see that one and said, well, she's back on the dating game. This is great. And then I never met her until I saw her at Buck. Buck Henry was giving a thing at the Sherwood school, and there was down on Hollywood Boulevard, and there was a whole lot of people there to hear him and everything. And they were talking about, well, you tell the story.
Well, Sherwood Oaks Experimental College had a lot of really good people came in, like George Siegel. I took a writing class from Rod Serling.
Wow.
It was really, and it was one of those, it wasn't an accredited school at all. And Buck somebody had asked Buck about the outfit that Barbra Streisand wore in Owl and the Pussycat. And if you remember, it had hands strategically placed on the negligee.
Right.
So somebody said, as a writer, did you write several versions of that lingerie? And he said, yes, we had the G-rated, the PG, the R-rated, the X-rated. We wound up using the R-rated version. And then he said, just kind of off to the side, I have the X-rated one at home. So I said, how does it fit?
No. And there were about 150 people that all just laughed at once. Norm, she got like the biggest laugh of the whole night by asking Buck Henry, how does that thing fit? Does it still fit?
So he was there that night. And
I was there that night, and the whole thing, and I went, who was it? And I could never, somebody pointed her out, but I didn't put the two and two together. I didn't realize that was the girl I'd seen on the.
But then years later, Randy was trying to, he had just bought a house, and I was trying to find a dog, a new home.
Yeah.
And through a series of circumstances, Randy wound up adopting that dog. And I befriended the dog and Randy. And we mentioned the Buck Henry story, and we realized we were in the same room at the same time and didn't know each other.
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't realize that was her.
So Buck's a part of this little situation here we got going on.
Oh,
huh?
yeah.
Yeah. So
If he hadn't said that, I probably wouldn't have realized who was what.
But again, making somebody laugh, I didn't realize he'd hear me say it, but he did.
Did you ever bump into Buck later on and say, hey, because of you, I got my bride?
No, he remained a friend. He passed away a few years ago.
The dog you did. I'm still here.
No, talking about Buck.
Oh, Buck passed away. Sorry.
Yeah. The dog sadly is long gone.
Yeah.
But, no, we all remained friends.
Oh, it's excellent. This is so, you don't say all the TV shows in the 70s, Chuck. I would watch Randall, Emergency, to Walton, $6 Million Man. I even had the action figure. I'd watch Love Boat. He's been on all these episodes. It's just so great. This is one of my favorites. How did the Midnight Cowboy role land on your lap? How did you get that?
I was graduated from college in May from West Texas State University with a Bachelor of Science in speaking, speech. So I had graduated. I'd been in plays, and I'd been in outdoor musical drama. Outdoor, Paul Green wrote it. It was 60 days long, and so I did some stuff. And then I left. When I graduated from college, I read a little blurb in the newspaper. Part of Dustin Hoffman's new movie, The Midnight Cowboy, will be filmed in Big Springs, Texas. Well, that was only 200 miles south of where I was. So I found out the Chamber of Commerce, and I got the names and dates and times of anybody that had anything to do with casting when they flew in from New York or LA. So I went there 3 times and met people while they were fixing to sign in at the Ramada Inn. I'd say, give them my 8 by 10. Hi, I'm so-and-so. I just graduated from college. I'm interested in trying to get some work here. And so they called me in. I was in a lineup with 35 other people from the area there. The kids, they were looking for leader of the Rat Pack, and I didn't know that. But one night they asked me to go through, and then they pulled me out of this line and put me up next to John Voight, and were taking pictures to see our sizes and all this and the other. And I turned to John Voight and I said, I guess this is a good thing. And he said, he was kind of standoffish because he thought I was like a real local tough, So he was a little standoffish, and I turned to him, I said, "Oh, this is great. I just graduated from college with a degree in speech and theater, and this is my first thing." He says, "Wait a minute, you're an actor?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "You got all these guys fooled. They think you're just some local yokel here." So he says, "Don't tell him." So he got to pull it on. You cast a guy that is an actor when you want just somebody from the town. So that was the deal.
Oh, that's cool.
My first part.
That's a cool story. You bump into John Voight afterwards?
We've stayed in touch. He did me a good favor. I was stationed on the DMZ in Korea, and I was going to call my cousin, who Indus Arthur was an actress out here, and so I was going to call her. But we couldn't always get out from where I was stationed down to Seoul to propel the telephone across the ocean. So that's how that happened, and I did that.
So John Voight called Indus and said, "Your cousin's going to call you."
Yeah. So when I called her 2 or 3 weeks later, because I had to have an appointment to call her, so I called in, and she says, "Hey, you'll never guess who called me and tell me that you were going to call." John Voight. He's really thrilled by it.
But we've run into him at different events around town, and he always greets Randy like a long lost brother. It's real sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah,
that is cool. I have a question for both of you. I don't know if either of you can confirm this, but with the Taxi, is it true that Danny DeVito's audition, that he just came in there and he pretended like he owned the place? He started yelling at people and telling them to get out and stuff, but it was like him doing the character. Is that true?
Well, he wasn't that much into it. What he did do was take the script and throw it on the guy's desk and say, "Who wrote this shit?" But that's the basis. That's the nucleus. And they all fell out of their chairs and laughed. And they knew they had the guy. If he was just a workable actor that could do it.
That's
he sure
awesome.
did. He sure did.
Okay. It was
I really liked him.
Louis Obama. It was one of the best. Little Ink. He was that guy. He was made for that character, that role.
And you know what's so nice too is that so many times when you work on TV shows, people say like, "Oh, we're going to be best friends and we're going to stay friends forever," and they scatter to the wind. But the Taxi people have always just been a family, and they're lovely people. And whenever Randy sees them, everybody just like picks up right where they left off.
Yeah.
One of my favorite shows. It was a great show. How did you get the gig over there with Taxi?
I just auditioned.
But a lot.
But I auditioned they had me come in about 4 times, and then
for that role, or was it
for that role? And they couldn't find anybody that did it like they wanted, and so I was that guy. And I didn't think I was going to get the test for it, but they called me up and said, we didn't get your network approval on you, but we need to have a guy work with the fellow we want. It was a fellow by the Nick Rogue was his name.
No, Nick Hoster.
Nick Hoster was his name. And he was a real fine actor. He just passed away recently, but he was good in it. And we went on Johnny Carson Tonight Show stage, and I auditioned for that. I helped him audition to get his part, and they saw me and liked me on that. And that's how I got in, by helping another guy audition.
Doing his screen test.
Doing his screen test. So
Wow.
that's how I got on.
Wow.
They called me at 8:00 at night, and how soon can you get over there in the morning and all this other stuff. And so, but it worked out, and we connected,
Excellent. Do you now, when it pops on the late night shows or TVs or the cable, whatever you watch, do you go, I don't want to watch my episode? Do you go back and you?
Oh, yeah, I do that. And sometimes I think, gee, I don't remember shooting this, or I don't remember the feeling of shooting that. I just like all of a sudden a new thing.
So cool.
It was so sweet because there was a Ruth Gordon episode that was on not too long ago, and Randy was telling me about hanging around Ruth Gordon, and there was a Martin Mull episode, and he got to bring his mom to the set. So it was, so that when it's the reunion episode, isn't it?
When he goes, Jeff Conaway goes and plays Louis, has grown up and years later at a reunion.
So his mother's favorite episode is one that Randy's not featured in a lot.
She liked Jeff Conaway a lot, and Tony Danza, she thought he was just dynamite.
Yeah.
I didn't see that much in him, but it was just me.
So actually, we just saw Tony at the Catalina Bar and Grill. It was almost a year ago now.
Yeah.
And he puts on a good show. If you ever want to,
he sings, right? He does
and he's good too.
He dances. He plays the trumpet.
He's a crooner.
Ukulele.
He's got a good voice.
Yeah. No, it's a good show.
I didn't know he was a crooner. I didn't know he sang like that. That he does the whole show.
Dances. He's like he's a triple threat. He sings, he acts, he dances.
You know who's another one like that? Frank Stallone. He actually is a great crooner. Frank Stallone. He does a great Sinatra, if you ever catch that. And excellent. Great story. I was just going to ask you, now it slipped my mind. I can't think because I'm just fascinated with all these great stories. Ruth Gordon, what was she like? What a fire, loved her.
What was it like? She was really great. I remember one time we were sitting around the table waiting to come rehearse after lunch, and so there was a fellow there his name was Aharon, and let's see, Abe Burrows came over and said, Jim Burrows came over and said, okay, I need Ruth, Judd, and Aharon. So she said, excuse me, what'd you say? He said, I want Judd Hirsch, Ruth Gordon, and Aharon. She says, oh, I thought you said you wanted Judd Hirsch and me and a heart on. And everybody just felt. We couldn't believe she said that. We heard Ruth Gordon said heart on in front of it. That was great.
Oh, my God.
She was a pistol. She had all her lines memorized, and then of course they changed them all. That was like pulling her hair was pulling out a little bit.
Oh, really?
But she was great. She didn't miss it.
She didn't miss a beat, huh? Yeah, she seemed like a firecracker. Like even in the roles she plays, all the roles.
Yeah, when I went to UCLA, I did graduate work there. They had a movie that a guy had written the script and had gotten produced, and he was there at UCLA. He was just a graduate student, and it was
Ben Heck.
It was
Was it the Ben Heck thing?
No, it was Ruth Gordon.
Oh, it was Harold and Maude.
Harold and Maude.
Oh, that's right.
So they were going to show a film that this guy wrote, and it was Harold and Maude, and they were showing it at UCLA, and here I was at UCLA, and they're showing a movie that those people made, and she was in it. You know, Harold and Maude. She was
She played
Maude.
the grandmother. No. She was like with the mother, the
little old lady.
Crush, the Crush.
Yes.
Like
yeah.
the Crush. That's right. I got it mixed up with My Bodyguard, where she was the grandmother in My Bodyguard.
No.
Or Where's Papa? That's the other one that she was famous for.
And she was famous for that
Tony
one. But
Siegel.
Yeah.
Harold and Maude. That was a it's a cult
Bud
classic.
Court.
Yeah.
Bud Court. But I
That's
couldn't
right.
believe I was seeing that.
Yeah, for back in
Great.
those days.
Phenomenal.
You know what? This has been a blast for me to even chat with you a little bit here, and thank you for jumping on here. And right here, yeah, look, right here, we got a comment right here. Harold and Maude, amazing film, absolutely. And this was a lot of fun having you guys here. And
do you ever get out? You mentioned the Canyon Club. Do you get out here much anymore?
I actually, I live in Washington State right now, and I have own a place in Central Coast, California. So I was actually going to go to LA next week, but I don't think I am. But I do come back and forth back there. And but you know what? We got to keep in touch. This is wonderful right here. And, yeah, before we sign off, you guys don't click off yet. Chuck, don't click off. And I'm going to give everybody a quick plug here. In the meantime, let me put a picture up here. I'm going to put links down below. So if you guys want to check out Shelley's book right here, I'll put up a picture right here. Please check it out. And you know what? Are you doing autographed copies? If they order it, Shelley, anything?
Sure.
If the fans?
Yeah, they have to go through my website, which is mypeacocktale@gmail.com, and I can send them out to people.
Okay, and we'll put links down there below so they could go directly to you. And right here, there she is, my Peacock Tale right there, right in front of the studios. The great picture right there. And this has been a lot of fun. And if you guys want to follow my buddy Chuck Shoot, Chuck, where can they follow you at? I'll put links for you.
Everywhere. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all that's Twitter, everything. TikTok.
Yeah.
YouTube's the big one. I'm trying to get my subscribers up. I set this stupid goal of having 3,000 subscribers by the end of the month. I don't think it's going to happen, but hey.
You'll get there. You're going to get there. And now how I found you, Shelley, was because of Chuck. He was the guy that actually had me found you because of the PR girl. And it's all a happy family. So I got to thank Chuck for inventing you guys. And I didn't know I was going to get such a surprise show today. So I'm really happy. And for everybody watching, this is Coffee Talk. Every Sunday, we are live 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time with Dr. G. So make sure you check that out. The good doctor, he'll give you some good remedies. And you got a guy from Brooklyn talking, I don't know what I'm talking, Yiddish, gibberish, whatever you want. That's it, you know. And Randall, I was bar mitzvahed in Israel. I grew up in Brooklyn. I'm a mess. I'm all over the place, Randall. You don't even know what you experience right now.
I've been there. I love it.
Oh, it's a beautiful place. I went there, 1980, bar mitzvahed. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to miss an episode of Taxi.
Oh, well, you know. You can buy it on paper. Yeah.
That's right. You could get it. But anyway, I'm going to roll the credits. Don't go nowhere, everybody. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, to Chuck's channel. Get Shelley's books. We'll put the links down below. You all are beautiful. And remember, be good to each other, everybody. And Chuck, do your favorite lingo, how you shoot for the moon. I love it. Say it, Chuck.
Shoot for the moon.
Shoot for the moon. That's it. Oh, God. You guys are all beautiful, and we love you. Mwah.
It's Coffee Talk with the Tika. Nothing rhymes with that but chicken tikka. We name drop here with Stephen and all his friends.
There'll be a cool box popping up somewhere. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, put your comments down below. And remember, who loves you, baby? We do. We'll see you all later.